Welcome to the Millionaire Mentorship Podcast. We discuss real estate investing, entrepreneurship, and business to help you retire and become financially free. Make sure you share this podcast with someone who could benefit from it and leave us a 5-star review. It truly helps me out. This show will mentor you towards financial freedom. If I can do it, so can you.
Welcome to the Millionaire Mentorship Podcast. I am your host, Troy Karns, and I've got a very, very, very dear friend, special guest, and probably the reason I'm out in Kansas City right now, I would argue, because when we first came out to Kansas City and I knew I wanted to invest here, number one, I was watching the Kansas City Chiefs play the Indianapolis Colts on Monday Night Football. And I was like, oh, let me scroll, let me look and see what this market's all about. I've been hearing about it, and I see all these cheap houses for 25, 30 grand. And I'm like, man, I'm all in on this market. Let me look. So I literally sent a message like, I'm going to buy 40 to 60 houses to probably about 100 different realtors through Instagram, social media, and all of those things. And as anybody knows, especially myself being an excellent realtor, it's really hard to find a good one, especially somebody who wants to work with investors. So I got to Zillow. I saw this wonderful, beautiful smile, and it said, I work with investors. And so we booked a trip to come to town on Thanksgiving, and I got with Andrea and Corey, and they schlepped me through how many houses?
I would say probably 35.
35. And what did you think when I first got to town? Because, well,
I vetted you out like I would. I treat every person the exact same. You know, due to fair housing, you have to do that. And in addition to that, it was a bold request, especially on a holiday weekend. So I asked for proof of funds because it seemed like a little
to be fair.
Yeah, to be fair.
I did book a ticket and flew out here.
Yeah, well, you know, that was your choice. But I would say that I was pleasantly surprised to meet you and your wife, and we looked at a number of properties, and it had a good fit to it. And we've done a lot of collaboration there since, whether it was through some of your mentorship programs or I've been, I spoke at a couple of them.
The first one.
Family events,
yes.
Birthday events.
You want to have a good party, invite Andrea.
Yes. And in addition to that, we've bought a lot of real estate. So we're at 1044 Main right now, and I haven't been here for a long time. In fact, I was like, where are we? Where do I park?
Yeah,
and
you were part of the transaction.
I was part of the transaction, and here we are today, and I'm excited to revisit whatever topics that you have here today. And I always am a fan of Troy Karns and what he believes in, what he does. You know, some of his...
little suspect in the beginning,
A little suspect in the beginning, a little suspect now.
John Doe?
Yeah, John Doe, Dewey, however you say it, that's his alias.
It is.
Yeah.
On Yelp still.
And I'm still Jane Dewey. And so, yes, we are a good team. We have a lot of friendship and history at this point and a lot of property. And so thankful to be here today. So thank you for having me.
Thankful for you coming here. In fact, I felt like crap this morning, and I'm like, I am not canceling.
I was hoping you were going to be honest with you.
No, the only reason I showed up because I had like the same thing go on. I was like, oh my God, I feel like crap. I'm looking at my calendar. I'm like, I am not canceling on her no matter what. I was like in interviews all day, and I was like, Danny, run this one. I'm done. I'm going to get myself to where I feel good enough so I can be here with you today because you are important. Like there's certain people that are critical for you succeeding in your life no matter where you're at. And if I didn't meet Andrea, and this is a shout out, if you're coming to invest in real estate in Kansas City, this is going to be the person I direct you to. Like the person she was just mentioning, Jesse, is somebody who I knew in Vegas, who buys lots of houses, who I directed to. She's met multiple people who I've directed them to. Directed Andrea.
Thank you so much.
And not all the time, right? not
all the time, thank you.
Yeah.
Sometimes more than others.
Yeah. So, the reason I want to do that is because one of the first things that I did when I came to Kansas City is I toured the city hall, toured the city government, and really got a good gauge at that period of time, which was 2019, what the state of affairs were. Like Kansas City wanted to see housing being taken care of. Kansas City wanted to see this taken care of. And the reason you and I have had a lot of conversations late at night lately about like really what's going on with Kansas City, and I think we're both very concerned as somebody who moved their family out here from a different state and really feel like I got a good sense of the Midwestern vibe, which is an awesome vibe. And as somebody who grew up in Shawnee and has spent a lot of her time investing and revitalizing the urban core, I think that the big questions I have for you right now, and I'm going to go after one at a time, but the first one is, How are you liking the current administration? Like the mayor, the city council, all of the things that are going on right now. Are you worried about things where going in Kansas City? Are you happy with it?
I would say first and foremost that it really depends on the topic. I would say that I have had increasing concerns for a lot of my clients and friends and local businesses for the increase in vandalism. We've had some issues even at our office. Our director of operations, Penny Nichols, the OG,
Yeah.
has really taken it upon herself to make sure that things are secure. And it's sad to me to see people taking things that are not theirs and the disparity that it gives to these smaller local businesses, whether it's breaking in, stealing the safe. These are not corporations that have the capital to do anything about it.
Right.
And it's furthermore sad to me to see some of the violence that has happened primarily with the youth of Kansas City.
Right.
And so we hear about these things, whether it's, the shooting of Shan Brady,
Right.
or the incident that happened at the Chiefs Parade, or just in general, like I live in the Brookside area and
Right.
there's shootings every night, but this can happen anywhere, and this is nationwide, this is global. What I feel is missing in the Kansas City equation right now, respectfully, is that there needs to be a little bit more attention to the youth. I'm involved with organizations that try to nurture, mentor, and change the trajectory of the city by the people, right?
Right.
You can put any signs out. You can say, oh, we do this, we do that, we're going to build this. But the fact of the matter is that there's no reason for development without the people and the tourism and the people that want to come here.
Right.
Because if you don't start from the infrastructure out, then you're just putting out, here's a new park, here's this, and that's all beautiful and fine.
Right.
But if our community is not really being taken care of, then it just doesn't really solve the problem.
Right.
So it has been disheartening, and I would say primarily in the last 6 months, I've seen an extreme uptick of this. And
Yeah,
it is,
we had personally on my parking lot here, we had somebody do donuts, which I was called a Karen for like 95 times for complaining that somebody went in and broke into my parking lot, did donuts. Danny let him get away. He had him dead to rights, and just freaking the guy outmaneuvered him. We literally had the guy, but we did get a police report against him, but now we can't get his insurance to pay for the damages. We had another incident. Somebody literally came up here on camera, graffitied our property. We've had another guy tried to break into our property, pry the door. All these things cost us money.
Absolutely.
All these things cost us time. I've had the city manager on this podcast right here. I like the city manager. I've tried to invite the mayor. I don't like the way, I'm going to say this live on the podcast. I don't care. I don't like the way that the mayor is trying to be a politician versus somebody who's actually trying to get things done. Just by looking at his Twitter feed right now, you can tell that he's only playing politics and not, his actions don't match his words. And the biggest concern that I have right now in general, and I want this to be out there, so I got no problem putting this out there, is that I believe that through KC Tenants, which I believe is the most powerful organization that does control the city council right now, I believe that they have weaponized tenants against landlords. And for me, that's concerning for two reasons. Number one is it doesn't create a healthy environment to have, I know you've been a landlord and stuff, you want to have a healthy environment with your tenants.
Sure.
If your tenants are against you because they just think you're bad people, that's not a good way to start it. The other thing is, if you're really trying to control the cost of housing, you should control utilities first. So if you were really worried about doing that versus trying to do some political game, which is, I believe, the lady who runs KC Tenants is really just trying to do a political game and weaponize tenants against landlords to pass all these unnecessary restrictions that don't make any sense.
let me interject here. So I don't know the leader of KC Tenants, but what I will say is that
Tara Ragavar.
Okay, I don't know her, but property rights should be per the property owner.
Correct.
Tenants or owners of property, you all have a right. Everybody has a right to have somewhere to live. When it becomes a community of the same cause, actually, that's why you're saying KC Tenants has so much power, and that's kind of what I was getting at in the first place. The community of Kansas City should have causes that are greater than just their one singular focus, right?
Right.
Housing is a big deal. I'm in real estate. I've been in real estate for 16 years.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, the infrastructure of the housing authority should have been handled prior to some of the regulations. There are, I believe, and I hope I'm not misspeaking here, but 3,500 people on a waiting list for housing. And what I found with some of my investor clients, many of my investor clients, is that they can't pass an inspection.
Hello?
And so there's like...
You want to know what I proposed? Check this out. So I told the city, I said, that's a great idea. We will gladly accept vouchers. Just make it so that automatically, by us being on the, what is it called? The thing we have to pay for, the little health code BS that they got going on here in Kansas City, safe.
Oh, Healthy Homes?
Healthy Homes. I said, if we're in good compliance with Healthy Homes, that should automatically pass us on the inspection.
Yeah, it's been challenging. Like, I had a property management company, as you know, and there was a time where we had 5 or 6 applicants with vouchers, and we were ready to move forward with them. But the issue became the basement. I'll give you an example.
Right.
So it was an unfinished basement.
Yeah.
And there was no time that it was fully repainted. It was a 100-year-old house. Yeah. Nobody's living in the basement. It's not living space.
Yeah.
Their stipulations, which I understand, but not solely, were to have a lead-based paint test done of the basement.
Oh, yeah.
If there was a child under the age of 5 that could possibly go down into the basement, which actually they never would have access to.
Right.
So we went through all these hoops because we cared about that tenant being able to get this home.
Right.
And whether it's a housing authority tenant or a market rate tenant, it doesn't matter. It's really just about the process and how you treat people.
Yeah.
And if you make it so very challenging for a landlord or a tenant to get into a property, you're just still stuck. So if this ordinance goes out there, that's great. And I'm for anything that helps the bigger picture here.
Yeah, me too.
But if it hinders it, we're just still stuck. So what's the point, and how do we make it better?
Right. So let's say you're mayor. What changes are you doing to Kansas City right now to make it a better place for everybody? This is your political campaign right now.
I am not running for mayor. I will run out of here before I run for mayor.
Okay.
But I would say that what I'm finding to be the most important is let's focus on less tourism. Let's focus on less, high-end development. And let's start focusing on the people that are here.
Right.
Okay, so we have thousands of apartments coming in. Great. But is that high-rise? And I'm not saying anything against this. Let's go for development.
For sure.
The infrastructure and the community that has always been in Kansas City, especially in the urban core, they need support.
Yeah.
So let's focus on the people, not the developer that is trying to appeal to somebody that is not in this maybe potential disparity.
Right.
Children, young adults, adolescents, whatever it is, they need support. Gun control is something that keeps coming up. Everybody's carrying. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I would be a disaster with that. Like, I'm good with a gun on Big Buck Hunter, which is a game. Outside of that, I don't want to live in a city where my head's on a swivel.
Yeah.
And I don't feel that way, but I will tell you, in the last 3 or 4 years, I do feel differently showing properties by myself than I may have before.
Really? Like, what sort of feelings are you having now?
I went to a property.
Because you've been in some pretty rough areas.
Oh, I mean, I was like
everywhere.
No problem. And still, I work in every arena, Kansas, Missouri, and Colorado. But at the end of the day, I was never like, should I go into this house or not?
Yeah.
I feel a little bit more aware, I guess I should say, which is smart. But I also don't want to have to feel like my job is potentially putting me in danger.
Right.
Thankfully, I've never had something that was an outcome of that. But for instance, last Sunday I went to a house, and
you guys did have a pretty scary incident, remember?
It was not real estate related. That was
They broke into a house, right?
Broke into a friend of mine's house, yes.
Yeah.
But that was not from a showing. That was somebody that was let out of jail and should not have been let out of jail, random person.
Right.
Who needed mental health support, quite frankly.
Yeah.
And thankfully everybody is okay for that. But my point is that, the house that I looked at last Sunday is in the same zip code that I live in.
Right.
And I live in East Brookside.
Yeah.
And this is about 16 blocks north and 7 blocks east.
Okay.
But same zip code. So in this same zip code, you would find houses that would range from 80,000 to 600,000.
Right.
Okay. I'm an urbanite. I've always lived in the urban core.
Right.
Since I turned 18, I'm like, see ya, Shawnee, I'm going to Missouri.
That's right.
And I didn't want to go into this house because there was a couple cars sitting out front.
Right.
People were sleeping in their cars.
Yep.
And then there was a person up the street signaling. So I was like, you know what? I'm not going to go in there today.
Yeah.
A client of mine asked me to look at another property, and I had one of my agents go. And the person that was marketing this property said, oh, the back door's open. Just go on in. She gets to the property, and yeah, the back door was open because the whole side of the house was blown out.
Yeah.
There was a 666 and a skull painted on the front of the house.
Welcoming.
There were, yes, very welcoming. There were, paraphernalia, needles and things laying everywhere.
Yeah.
She was there for 5 minutes. I told her, do not go inside. Absolutely not. She wouldn't even be able to walk inside.
Right.
She could have dove through the side of the house. But
That's something you encourage your agents to do? Is
absolutely not. It's safety first. And outside of that, this was, the house is unlocked. Oh, yeah. The house is basically not even a house.
Yeah.
But in the 5 minutes she was there, her gas cap was opened, and they were trying to siphon gas. There was 8 people up the street just watching.
Yeah.
Oh, here's a new car. Here's a new car. Here's a new car.
Right.
And it's, again, everybody has an industry and everybody has a way to make money. And I'm not saying anything negative about that, but it's like, can we just start with maybe a little bit of respect?
Right.
Do what you do. There's been industries that have been from the age of time. Fine. Everybody makes money the way they do.
Right.
But just don't make it everybody else's problem.
Right. So, as somebody who grew up here and you're starting to see some of these things, it sounds like a lot of it, from what I'm understanding, what you're saying is crime related.
Yeah. I mean, I was very affected a couple weeks ago because our neighbor, Teo Cali, Enrique, he got broken into. And that was pretty scary.
This is a restaurant that I ate at many times right next to your office.
Right. One of our clients and one of our good friends.
Yeah.
And, he's an independent business owner. That's him and his family. They don't have that capital.
Right.
And then Ruby Jeans right up the street.
Ruby Jeans on Troost.
Right. Nothing Bunt Cakes in Brookside. Never even been there. I didn't know there was a Bunt Cake store.
Good cakes.
I guess they are good cakes.
Yeah.
But it's not even necessarily that they're getting anything. It seems like it's almost just like, let me see what I can screw up here. The same.
That is the mentality. The guy who came and did donuts, he literally sat there, smoked a joint, got in his car. He did it multiple times. I finally only was able to hear about it because Brian Platt contacted me because somebody was putting them on his tweets, letting him know that this guy's, and they put me as the property owner responsible for the fact that this guy's doing donuts in my parking lot. And then we can't even get the police report with the guy's insurance thing. It's just...
It's very, very unfortunate, and there's thousands of cars. We had a listing over at 41st in Charlotte, and 16 cars got broken into one night. They didn't take anything. They just were driving up the street just bashing in windows. 2 days after Enrique's restaurant got broken into, one of his servers and tenants who lives across the street from the office, their car got stolen at 7:15 a.m.
Right.
He called the police, and they said, we can't do anything about it. He asked me, can you check the cameras? Their solution was to beef up your security.
Yeah.
And so, of course, everybody's going to do that.
Right.
But how are we going to fix this problem of the car thefts are getting out of control?
Right.
Very, very much out of control.
What's up with Shan Brady? I don't know much about that case.
I have no affiliation to say with authority about this, but I will tell you this, that's 3 blocks from where I live.
Okay.
Shan Brady is everybody's well respected in Kansas City if you're a business owner or not. And that should be the mentality, case in point.
Right.
But he was taking the trash out allegedly at his restaurant, Brady and Fox.
Okay.
And he noticed a group of individuals around a vehicle and said, what are you guys doing? And he was shot. This was right before Irish Fest, and he was the one that did the big Irish breakfast.
Okay.
And whether it was Shan Brady or anybody, this just needs to chill out for a second.
Yeah.
And it seems like it's almost becoming more of a game.
Yeah.
Than it is a gain, if that makes sense. It's almost like, okay, so what can we screw up today? Who can we do this to today? And it's not even there seems to be no rhyme or reason to it.
Well, there's no repercussions. That's the rhyme.
There's no repercussions to it. And that doesn't mean that that's an issue for the administration or the police department. I don't think that there's enough support there. If you are dealing with hundreds of cases a day, you need to either figure out more patrol or whatever else. I have a client and a developer over in Midtown.
Yeah.
They're spending, I can't remember what he had told me, but I want to say $100 a day for additional security to patrol their parking lots.
Yeah, we had to do that here.
Chris Sally, who I had mentioned to you, who's a developer here, he posted a bunch of things on Instagram where his building just keeps getting run into. And it's happening over and over and over again. And these are, developers, these are business owners, or even personal property owners. You drive a specific vehicle that's really easy to steal. But where do we get this energy that's going to the negative into a positive is the only thing I could say for a solution. Because I don't want to point any sort of fingers because I'm not the one to have a solution. But at the end of the day, it's education, it's support. People don't wake up one day and say, I'm going to do this. It's a trickle down effect. And that really starts with just support for communities wherever they are to be able to understand that, like, here's a way you can make money. Here's a way that you can do this. And, you don't have to do this. But I don't know what the perfect solution is, with the exception of some of the groups that, we're affiliated with, to start from the ground up of youth and giving life skills and just believing in somebody that maybe doesn't have somebody that believes in them, because you're not learning this on your own.
Yeah. So with that all being said, now, do you feel like Kansas City is still a great place to invest?
I do. I would say in other markets, some of the landlord laws are quite extreme comparatively.
Yes.
Kansas City is more expensive than it was when you started buying in 2019 for you.
Can we talk about that?
Sure.
How crazy that went?
I mean, you're probably in the minimum 3 times what you purchased any property for.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you.
Yes, no problem. But, again, like, it's all on a sliding scale. So, like, what the prices are today, it's just Kansas City has such an appreciation, and there's so much development here. There's so much good here. Kansas City is on the map.
Yeah.
And it has been. And
Who put them on the map?
I would say that has a lot to do with the sports figures here.
Yeah, that's
the
what I
development here. I would say it has a lot to do with the sprawling nature of whether it's Kansas or Missouri, North Kansas City. Like, all these things were not there. Like you mentioned Shawnee earlier. When my parents bought their house out there was nothing.
Yeah.
But it sprawls, and that's because people want to be here, and the Midwest remains pretty middle ground.
Yeah.
Whereas,
what do you mean by when you say middle ground?
Middle ground meaning that our disparity in economics for employment, it stays pretty even.
Yeah, let's go into that a little bit more depth, because we kind of went on all the negatives in the beginning. Now we can go to all the positives.
Perfect.
So one of the things that I've noticed, and as a guy coming from Las Vegas, I'm like, well, the houses are cheap, the labor's going to be cheap, but guys out here get paid well.
Well, good.
Is what I'm saying. Like, if you're living in the Midwest, or if you're in California or considering moving to the Midwest, like, you're making more money over here than you would be over there, and the cost of everything is less.
Yes, I would agree with that from a labor standpoint.
Well, let's play it to. You lived in Colorado.
I did.
What's an electrician make in Colorado?
I don't know, because I've always run maintenance here.
Okay.
So I would tell you right now that I have vendors that I will specifically work with, and I don't want to share their information because they get too busy.
Yeah.
But I can trust them. And trust factor, I will pay more for than anything else. I don't want to babysit you.
Yeah.
I know you're going to do a good job. I know I can rely on you.
Yeah.
And then there's vendors where, like, I tried to do a renovation one time through TaskRabbit. That was a fucking nightmare.
Yeah.
And you get what you pay for.
Well, you're the one who gave me TaskRabbit. I still use that.
Well, I still use it for some things, but full-blown renovation, no. If I need you to maybe help me rake my leaves, fine.
Yeah.
But there's vendors of all categories and calibers, and it's really just goes back to, again, communication. I have 3 guys right now that I use for almost everything, and I can rely on them. I can trust them. One of them only communicates in audio messages.
Love him.
I'd like to play you one if you don't mind.
Please. Yeah,
Yeah, 1 second.
Yeah.
It's all day long, which can be a little bit much because I'm in the middle of something. Hold on, let me see here.
Yeah, but you got to work with what you work with, right?
I mean, he's the best. One of my very favorites will be right here.
Okay, the dirt, leave alone the dirt, or...
It's just all the things. But most of the time it's thank you.
Andrea, that plans, you want to remove them?
Anyways, he's the best. I will not give you his information.
Okay, cool.
But he left a
Can I
very
see your phone real quick?
no. He left a very large hedge fund that he was doing all the maintenance for.
Right.
And he said, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not going to be on a 30-day pay.
Yeah.
I'm going to start my own thing.
Yeah.
And it's a matter of vetting these people out. So long
Right.
story long, people in Kansas City or anywhere should make what it is that they deserve.
Right.
And sometimes you don't make what you deserve, but that's not your fault. But if you're working, you'll get paid. And if you're not working, you might try to get paid other ways. But regardless, stay off the cars and the properties.
All right. So let's go into a couple of the laws that recently passed here, or you could call them ordinances. So they recently passed an ordinance that gave, and this is all through KC Tenants. So I'm going to go through some of the laws that they passed.
You probably will know more about this than I do.
Okay, they passed one that said you need to establish a language class in Kansas City for the city for people who speak different languages.
Okay.
And so they're KC Tenants. They're supposed to be solving affordable housing. They're now stop putting language things in our called our municipality or whatever. They're actually controlling parts of our municipality, funding parts of our municipality.
They have translators then?
Yeah, for two people, but not for the other 300 languages that are spoken out
Okay.
there. That's the whole point. Plus, there's this thing called Google Translate
Yes, I've
that
used
works
it.
pretty well these days. Where my point is, like, the biggest problem I got with KC Tenants is I just don't believe they're genuine. I believe they're weaponizing the tenants against the landlords, okay? Which is a great strategy if you're running KC Tenants, but it's a terrible strategy because if you actually cared about that, wouldn't you try to, if the water company, if you don't pay your water bill, do you go to court?
No.
What happens?
You just keep getting the bills.
And they turn your water off.
And then it follows either you or the property, depending on how the utilities were set up.
Yeah. So how do we make sure it doesn't follow me as the property owner?
Revert to owner.
No, because that reverts it to me, right?
Nope. You do
look,
revert to owner as a landlord on every property. The tenants put the utility bills in their name. When they move out, that bill follows their name. Revert to owner means when they move out, if they don't pay the bill, you don't get shut off. It goes back to you, and you do not inherit that bill.
So revert to owner is how we want to set up those
Yes.
things so that it always goes after them.
Correct.
They'll probably change that law eventually and make it just stick on the owner because they can lien the property.
I hope not.
That's what happened in Vegas. And I see a lot of what happens with a lot of these laws. I noticed that they worked over here, so let's go try them over here. Like they're not like, it's like social media influencers. They're not like trying to reinvent themselves. They're like, oh, this worked over here, we're going to do that. In Seattle, Washington, it is illegal to park your car in a property you own that is vacant.
Why? That makes no sense.
It's a law. It's an
But for what reason? Do you not own the parking space? Does it have to be a specific license plate?
No, it just has. You can't.
You have to register the car to park in your own property.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah. My fear is a lot of those rules and laws that are coming from as people move across the country, because I think you're noticing that now more than anybody, right?
I mean, I would say that I'm not noticing it in as great a capacities as a lot of my clients that are saying, we're not buying in Washington anymore. We cannot do anything.
What I'm saying is, have you seen a lot of people move here?
Oh, yeah, of course. And
Like you saw me move here.
I've
you saw that
seen
in,
a lot of investors start investing here for a reason, but I've seen a lot of people move back here. So Kansas City is kind of like a home base, right?
Right.
When I lived in Denver, nobody's from Denver. Nobody is from Denver.
Right.
It's just like where you move to be cool and hang out with your friends, listen to music, and then you're like, I need to go home or I can't afford it anymore.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of revisiting to Kansas City. People that maybe, moved to California or they moved to Austin or wherever it is, and then they had their career, their family, or maybe not. And then they're like, you know what? This is too expensive. I'm going to go back to Kansas City.
Right.
Again, back to home base, middle ground.
Man, I am so happy that you turned into the Millionaire Mentorship Podcast. It's something that I've been working on for over 3 years right now. We're up to 150 podcast episodes. A lot of them are virtual. A lot of them are in studio, which is what we prefer. If you have a guest that you think that should be on our podcast, all you got to do is comment who it is. And we'll reach out to them, or if you want to reach out to them and reach out to us, we'd love to have them on a show. We're looking for entertaining, inspirational people that, just like you hear on the podcast, every week that can bring value and help our listening audience achieve their goals. If that's something for you, comment down below and let us know. You've recently, in the last few years, gotten pretty aggressive on your own real estate investing. Is that accurate?
I mean, I would say that I bought a few in tandem, some of which I wish I didn't, most of which are excellent. Very diversified in the property types.
Which ones do you like the best right now?
Honestly, my single family homes.
Always.
And my triplex, the one that you didn't want to buy, but then she didn't and I did.
No, she wanted it and then...
Yeah, she said no and then I bought it.
Yeah.
I'm on a 27% return on that.
Right. That was a great one.
Yeah, sorry, Eden.
That was a great one though, right?
Yeah, it is. And let me say this. That's
What'd
in
you
Kansas.
pay for that one? Like 50? It was
125,000.
Turnkey though, that one was.
Yeah.
Or pretty damn close.
Pretty damn close.
Triplex,
and my rents are
KCK, right?
KCK. The dot is hot. I'm pretty big on Wyandotte County right now. But my rents are like $2,400 total initially, and I think now we're at $2,750.
Nice.
And again, you keep things affordable.
Yeah.
You don't have problems with tenants typically. And affordability is, I think, back to your earlier, statement. I think that is the goal of KC Tenants, right? So my question to...
I don't think that's their goal.
Well, okay.
Yeah, I think...
Have some chips.
Yeah, no, I think that their goal is to weaponize the tenants to pass...
What is the gain if there's no placement of housing? What's the gain?
The gain is political power.
Okay. Well, if the cause is not being handled, what is the gain for the goal? None.
Well, if you get these small victories, like now you have appointed tenants counsel for the eviction, and the tenant gets to stay in their property longer for not paying rent, then that's a benefit to the tenant. And that was done by KC Tenants. If they have a tenants' bill of rights where the tenants feel like they've gotten something, even though it doesn't necessarily, insure them from not paying their rent, but their methodology is the rent is too damn high, rent should be free, rent is a basic human right, or housing is a basic human right, rent should be free. And although I do agree with that housing is a basic human right, you can't float on this earth without doing anything and expect to have everything given to you. That's called socialism.
I would say that I would beg a question on this topic. If you are wanting to have a platform on tenant rights,
yeah,
you should. Okay, everybody has rights. I'm not disputing that.
Yeah.
But if you are wanting to be in certain programs, or if housing is a basic right or tenants' rights, where's the education on that end?
None.
Right. So
you want to know what the education is? That if you don't get your way to go and picket that person, to go then humiliate them on social media, to then protest, to then call all the tenants, to basically be a spoiled brat, probably like the leader of KC Tenants, to be a spoiled brat and to stomp your feet up and down until you get what you want, and then to bully the council people that if they don't do what you want and the judges don't do what you want, you're going to send your yellow shirt army over to their house to scare them. That's the tactic.
Yeah, one of my friends manages a building, and there was a fire at the building, unfortunately, which was caused by a tenant.
Oh, imagine
and
that.
He mentioned that they got on it right away, of course, because safety and making sure everybody was good.
Right.
And the tenants were outside, and they brought pizza because they thought that would be helpful, given the fact that there was this tragedy that had happened with this fire. And the tenants just laughed in their face and said, "We don't want this pizza." And for them, they're like, "Well, we didn't ask for this. This is a horrible thing that happened." But it was like a solution. But there again, where is the gain for the goal?
Right.
What I'd like to see is we have a lot of vacant property here.
Totally.
Let's talk about that. Because squatters. Okay, so for instance, one of my clients from San Francisco, she has a property in the urban core about 41st and Benton.
Yeah, I know that area well.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
And there was...
Benton Ave or Boulevard?
Regardless, Benton. There was 6 houses that were all vacant right next door.
Yeah.
Each and every one of them was occupied by a non-tenant. And
AKA squatter.
sure.
Okay.
And they, for us to try to lease out this property was really challenging for our property owner. And we ended up getting a housing authority tenant in there. We went through 7 inspections before we could get a housing authority tenant to
How
be
hard
approved.
is it to pass a Section 8 housing inspection in Kansas City? This is
7 inspections.
But hold on. The reason I want to bring this up so that anybody's listening right now, this is so important right now that if you're listening to this right now, if you are in Kansas City, if you are a landlord, if you are a bureaucrat, if you work at the city council, if you work for Housing Authority of Kansas City, it is harder to pass a housing inspection for a voucher than it is to pass an FHA loan. Would you agree?
I would agree with that 100%. And so one of our agents, she went down to the housing authority office. She just had to go there in person because nobody was answering the phone. And I understand they're understaffed. And,
No, or they just don't answer the phone because they don't have to.
well, but my point is that this was not just one applicant.
Yeah.
This was 3 applicants, and
Right.
it took 7 tries. Now, mind you, for 4 years prior to that, there was a housing authority tenant in there that we placed.
Right.
It's getting more strenuous, and there is a checklist out there that the inspectors will provide for anybody that wants to take a peek at it.
Yeah.
And I understand the point of it because it is a government-backed funding program, but also, like,
But
you know,
it's not done the same here as it is in Mississippi. It's not done the same here.
it should be done the same everywhere if it's
Right.
if it's a backed, funding.
Yeah.
We have a lot of
What didn't you pass on? Let's go through that.
I don't know because I was not me being there.
Okay,
I will
gotcha.
tell you though that the tenant that we had there before, remember Shawnee? She was one of our leasing agents. But anyway, she placed this client of ours there, and she had 5 kids.
Mm-hmm.
So the house needed, I think, $8,000 worth of work when she moved out.
Yeah.
Which the deposit, of course, was not sufficient for that.
Right.
But, the owner did what she needed to do. And she chose and really was passionate about having another housing authority tenant in there because of the guaranteed rent and familiarity with the program.
Yes.
After 6 months went by, she was getting so frustrated. And she's a real estate attorney, in San Francisco. And she was like, this is crazy because we already did this before and this was not the case.
Right.
And it has a lot to do with who the inspector is as well.
Right.
I have attended multiple inspections for the housing authority when I had the property management company. And some inspectors will say, yeah, send me a picture, get everything done. And I'm thinking like, I'm going to get grounded. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I got to do this, this, and this. Like I'm physically
Right.
doing it myself.
Yeah.
Because I care, because
Yeah.
I want to get
Yeah.
the property filled for my client, but I also want to get the property filled for the tenant.
Well, it helps everybody.
Well, here's what I think.
Yeah.
We have so many vacant schools and churches.
Yeah.
So for the KC tenants and for the amount of people that are unhoused right now
Right.
or are on the waiting list, why doesn't somebody fix up the vacant schools and churches to the standards of the housing authority and create housing on vacant property that maybe the city already owns? And that creates a more ease of solution and also helps the neighborhood instead of seeing this beautiful church that you cannot repurpose because getting through zoning is too hard. Or this school that is just going to sit there because you can't get through the rezoning of that. Like there's too many rules for the neighborhood wants to see this beautiful, beautiful property, but they don't want anybody else to do anything with it. So it's just going to sit there.
Yeah.
Then we have all these people that need a place to live. So why don't we use some of our funding, tax dollars, and city money to redevelop these properties that nobody can do anything with besides tear them down from an out-of-state developer standpoint,
Yeah.
and give housing to the people that need housing
If you
and
were-
make it to your standards, and then there's no issue.
If you were to guess, on the east side, how many vacant houses would you say that are out
Gosh,
there?
I don't even know. Like,
I'm going to guess 10,000.
I would probably say I would agree with that. The property I was telling you about that I didn't go into on Sunday, I went back there yesterday with my brother prior to the inspection.
Yeah.
And within Sunday to Sunday morning, I was there at 10:30 a.m. Yesterday, I was there about maybe 12:30. 5 neighboring houses now had boarded up windows that did not on Sunday.
Right.
When did this happen?
Right.
Why did this happen?
Uh-huh.
The city, I got this is rich. I received a parking ticket in front of my house for expired tags. Okay.
Interesting.
My tax had been expired for 2 months.
Yeah.
And it was because when I bought my truck,
Yeah.
it was after the cycle of renewal.
Right.
But I see hundreds of cars, no license plate, maybe a temporary tag with a marker, maybe 5, 6 years old. So why are we focusing on that instead of focusing on property if housing is such a big topic?
Right.
Let's put our money and our minds where they need
Well,
to go.
I think it's just talk is cheap, right? Like,
Well, I guess you make money if you citate.
right. You make money if you citate, and I've brought this up to any number of Kansas City officials, and it's so funny. I'm like, do you guys realize that there's over 10,000 vacant houses that you guys control? And I was met with, oh, we only have like 500 houses. I'm like, then your data is wrong. Because I've looked at the same houses over and over again on Chestnut, on this street, on that street, and I look them up every single time at Land Bank, Kansas City, Land Bank, Kansas City. And then you try to call Land Bank, Kansas City, good luck.
Well, and you know, Land Bank has its perks, but it also has its.
There are no
What's
perks.
the opposite of perk?
Land Bank.
Oh, okay.
The opposite of perk is Land
No
Bank.
dumping. So this is the one really big win I would say for my life in Kansas City is we have trash cans and recycle bins. I was pumped because, you know, putting your trash in the bags out on the curb, fine. But then it gets strewn about. You have wildlife, whatever.
Yeah.
There's so much trash. When those big, beautiful trash cans and recycle bins came in, I was like, whew, my life is complete.
Yeah,
These are simple things.
These are simple things. I thought it was pretty weird that Kansas City, when I first came here, you just put your trash in a bag, and they didn't provide you any garbage cans, and then you got raccoons everywhere here.
Well, like on every bypass, like if you're going down 71 and you get off on, let's just say any exit, actually.
23rd.
Any exit.
Yeah.
It is just trash everywhere.
Right.
And so it is a norm that should not be a norm. So
Right.
like I want to be a positive thinker on how we make our city better. And that is a multi-layered approach, but it really starts with street to street. And
I agree.
you know, you have a house that had a fire here, or you have a house that has mattresses here. You have people that are like, I mean, honestly, we had a listing over in the Northeast, and there was people that were like naked running in the streets and dogs and whatever else. I'm like, this is Wild West right now.
Yeah.
So how do we help the people that need help in addition to keeping our city beautiful? And then we can focus more of these development dollars, because if we don't fix the problem of the city itself, then where's the tourism? I don't get it, you know?
Right.
What is the draw? Why would
Right.
investors want to be here? Why would homeowners want to be here?
Right.
I'll tell you why they want to be here, because Kansas City is the best, but there's a lot of things that need to be fixed. And the vacant properties and some of the solutions that I think about very often, it's, again, back to education and communication.
Right.
We need trades. You talked about vendors earlier and what
Yeah.
people get paid.
Right.
We need vocational trades.
Right.
You don't have to, you know, think that you can't do this or that or the other thing because of whatever position you're in life. You can be an electrician, you can be a welder, you can be whatever you want to be, and that's the hope of the American dream.
Right.
But people having options gives solutions, hopefully.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I just think that it's not one person's problem. It is a community effort.
Yeah.
It's just who does it serve and why does it serve them. And sometimes that's not really one and the same.
Yeah. And you got to be careful because, you know, one thing I figured out is like you go and talk to all of these politicians and they all tell you what you want to hear. And then nobody actually does anything. And that's the problem is like you've been here a long time, longer than I have. And so my only experience is this last 3 years really. And prior to that would be the administration before, because I think it was the same people, but it was a different council. And so I've seen and I've met with, and you know, I've met with a lot of the people, and I'm like, man, I asked myself, I'm like, well, who's the person making all the rules here? And I'm like, oh, it's KC Tenants. No wonder nothing's getting done and everything's going this way, because they're controlling that council. And if you look at who got elected, you've got Jonathan Duncan, who's a leader of the KC Tenants and related to the mayor. And he's one of the councilmen. And then you've got another person who's that KC Tenants helped get elected. So their allegiance is really to the people at KC Tenants. Now, great on KC Tenants for being able to get all that together. But that's what I've asked Tara. I said, come in. If you're really interested in solving this problem, I've rehabbed over 120 properties in the urban core. I'm probably the guy you should be having the conversation with, right? I could probably get this thing done.
What kind of incentives could happen for you to create a greater alliance with KC Tenants? So for every person or, whoever needs a place to live, if they were to lease out one of your properties, is there a education program that they could go to know how to live in a home? Every one of my tenants, I make sure they know, like, what to do and not to do, whether they're in a program or not.
Yeah.
But like if they say, okay, I'm gonna put, your portfolio out there for people that are struggling to find housing, and they know that you've rehabbed these properties, why can't you work together to make that a reality?
Well, you've been in relationships before, right?
Next.
So the one thing I'll say is you can't have a conversation with another person in that relationship if they're not willing to listen to you, and they say specifically, I'm not willing to even have a public dialogue with you.
Okay.
Which means to me you don't want to solve the problem because you never were concerned about the problem. You're concerned about the power. Okay? And the power is something that I believe a lot of people are very interested in, right? You talked...
I'm not.
No, I don't think you are, but a lot of people are, okay? And so when you talked about things earlier before, and you're like, well, the zoning and all these other issues, like there's so many issues. They just repealed back the building codes because nobody could get through the damn permitting process. Like if the council doesn't understand it, if the guys enforcing the rules don't understand it, then how the hell do you expect the public to understand it?
It comes from the top down, okay, on that topic, right?
Yeah.
There is not enough staff. There is not enough, from the city sewers to the sidewalks to whatever it is. The Airbnb ordinance that Megan, our friend and colleague, had fought.
Yeah. What happened there?
Well, they kind of made it up as they went along. And so there was a lot of people that did not follow the process, but the process was just kind of like when you have to try to appeal your taxes, which is another topic.
Yeah.
They make it so very challenging okay, you have to go to the courthouse. You have to sit there in person. You have to pull a ticket. It's not streamlined whatsoever.
Right.
And the taxes thing is a totally separate topic. The Airbnb situation was kind of put out there. I don't know who was the puppeteer of that. However, I have been impacted by it.
Yeah. Did you have Airbnbs?
I have one Airbnb that is legally permitted and has been for 4 years now.
I know that one.
No issues. And then I have another one that has had a license for over a year and a half. When I went to do the renewal, I passed the inspection. I did everything perfect. I always want to follow the rules so I don't have to have any extra bullshit.
Yeah.
But then,
yeah,
they told me that it was denied.
Why?
Nothing to do with the property or the condition of the property.
They didn't like your hair?
They did not mention my hair. I don't think it was about the hair. It was because the proximity of my property to a neighboring property in a density district, they measured wrong.
Oh.
So now...
That's your fault, though.
That's how I feel.
Yeah.
So I furnished this entire place. So now I get to appeal that.
Yeah.
And hope for the best.
Right.
But like some people that have these dreams of being property owners or tenants or dreams in general.
Right.
Should be a little bit easier.
You shouldn't be fighting the man.
No. And I get it. Like if you don't pull permits, and you do a full-on renovation.
Yeah.
That's something that the city would need to be.
Oh, I've been through that before.
Right, that's why I mentioned it. Yeah,
I figured you did, and I'll be honest with that. Listen, when you're doing renovations and you're involved with the city or you're on the list, pull your permits. If you don't need to pull permits, don't pull permits. But because you're inviting basically the worst of the worst in, and that you saw how much that slowed us down. 6 months.
Yeah.
6 months.
On 2210.
And before that, another 6 months.
I know.
So we were a year to get through the permit process.
But we have the open house this weekend.
Yeah. We were a year to get through the permit process, not because anything other than the city got mad because the neighbor reported us for not pulling permits because my contractor at the time didn't pull permits. And then that went into a whole situation there.
And
But in the meantime,
fines
they weren't concerned about the property getting robbed. They weren't concerned about the property being broken into, windows being broken. But they are concerned about the fact that you didn't pull a permit.
So herein lies the conundrum.
Right.
You're an investor, you're a developer, you're a tenant, you're a property owner, you're a landlord, okay?
Right.
You find a property you want to develop or invest in and renovate.
Right.
You have to go through a lot of hurdles to do that.
For sure.
And there's reasons for that. Now you have to go through the next round of hurdles to be able to even rent it out or to have it be legal.
Right.
And then from a tenant standpoint, you have to go through a whole round of hurdles.
Right.
But all we're talking about here is the right for housing. Okay.
Right.
So that property that we're discussing is in like A+ condition.
A+.
And it was in F- minus
condition.
sitting there rotting, getting
For
broken
years.
into. Nobody cares about that. But when you start pulling the trigger on making it better,
When I spend $300,000 making it better.
yeah, that's your problem. But at the end of the day,
It is
we
my
have
problem.
to have a middle ground here.
Now yours.
No shit. There has to be a middle ground, and it takes cohesiveness, and it's not a tug of war. It's not a
Property we're talking about is on East 34th in the heart of the urban core. Is a beautifully, probably one of the best looking properties in that
without a doubt. It's a fourplex. It has off-street parking. It is the hoops that had to be jumped through on this were insane to me, including, and I don't know, maybe you can give me some context on this, why there was, and ADA is very near and dear to my heart with my friend Melissa and in general, but why the ADA requirements on the second floor when there's no elevator? Because you pissed somebody off?
No, because it's commercial, considered a fourplex. So this is interesting.
Because the readaptive use, even though it's always been a fourplex.
Yes. So
it doesn't make sense.
This is the funny part about this one. We should go down this rabbit hole a little bit. So when I first bought that property,
you did not buy it with me.
Yeah, I did not. That actually bought directly from the seller. Okay, I had been driving around sending my little postcards. The guy calls me. I bought it when I was out of state, and we ended up doing that deal. And then I hired a guy to do the work. And, having not rehabbed a fourplex in almost, I think I bought my first one in 2009, and I haven't done a one since 2011, and I didn't pull permits on those ones. So I didn't know that I treated it the same way I treat real estate, is that if it's under 4 units, it's residential, and if it's over 4, it's commercial.
Which is correct.
Unless it's building code.
So
if
they
it's
have changed the code now.
So the code says if it's over 2 units, it's commercial. So I had to go through commercial code. So now what City of Kansas City did is they said, go and look up the property through the poke phone systems to prove that it was not built as a multifamily. And I'm like, well, they have about 700 of these same exact looking fourplexes here. I'm like, can't you guys just go through your building records? No, they send me on this wild goose chase. I go everywhere they're telling me. I finally come back and I say, you guys have a guy named Bradley Wolf who runs your historical district. Don't you think he might have the information? I requested the information from him. He gave me the actual permit that the guy pulled in 1917 as 4 flats. So that whole point, the thing that we didn't know was that it was that it had to be done to commercial code standards. Also, during that whole entire property,
They changed the code.
they changed the zoning on that property because the guy didn't opt out.
Okay, so another thing that people need to really lean in on when it comes to property is the Economic Development Council.
Yeah.
I'm going to give a big shout out right now to Bob Long.
Bob Long.
Absolutely, at the Economic Development Council of Kansas City, and Greg Kendall.
What do they do? I don't know anything about them.
They help developers. They are a organization that encourages development and incentives for developers. And the thing that's really cool about Bob Long is he will get back to you within a maximum of 48 hours. I sent him this address, right? Because we had it under contract a couple of times, but the buyers weren't able to hold out for the utilities to be turned on.
Right.
And he was like, yeah, this isn't a district that would be applicable for a tax abatement. Mm-hmm. There are very, very, very many programs, whether you're in any county, that you need to do research on, because like a tax abatement is huge.
Right.
If you can save 75% on taxes for 5 years, 7 years, 10 years.
We need to go through that right now because I need to get all of my properties are in those areas.
Correct. So I will
I need to start getting my gal on the paperwork, huh?
Yeah, it's a very simple process.
So we're talking love and war. You're 35.
No, I'm not.
About ready to be 36.
No, I'm 39. About ready to be 40 in January.
So what's on the horizon? You're with
I'm with nobody.
You were dating a guy that
I was dating somebody for many years, but I do not want to settle.
You don't want to settle.
I do not, and I'm not.
So you don't want to settle down?
Well, I'm not like a wild stallion or something of this nature. I just don't want to settle. I have felt what it feels like to have like a partnership, and I think that as you get older, that gets harder to have.
Right.
Nobody's changing over the age of 35. End of story. Point blank.
Yeah.
So you have to find somebody that you can stand, that has the same goals as you,
Right.
that supports you, and I'm not talking about financially.
Yeah.
Being it with somebody that is self-employed is very challenging because it's not like I'm like, hey, just clocked out. Let's have some soup.
Yeah.
You know, like whatever. Like let's go to Red Box or let's go for like I like
Red
going
Box? They still open?
that's sometimes what people like to do. I don't know.
Yeah.
It is an offset that is unfortunate because being self-employed and an entrepreneur, you sacrifice things that other people don't. My dad is always like on my ass about this. He's like, Andrea, there's no real value of life besides when you have a family and have kids, and I do want to have that.
Yeah.
So put it.
I think
in
you'd
the
be
notes.
a great mother. The way you
I'm already mothering everybody.
Yeah.
Put it in the notes. Put it in the comments. I mean, I have like maybe a year left to get pregnant. So.
Well, my wife got pregnant at 42.
Oh, perfect. And I love her kids.
Yeah.
They're crazy.
They're mine too.
Oh, I did say your kids.
No, I think I said her.
No, I said your.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So
That's weird. Are they your kids?
Yeah.
They look
are.
just like you.
Yeah. So the thing is about that stuff for women. I know that like you guys feel that, but like you gotta pick a guy like me because I had no idea about biological clocks. I'm like, oh, you're 39. We still got plenty of time.
I wear watches that don't work, just for fashion. So go on.
Yeah. So my point is like, you know, I feel like you're a great friend, a great catch. So for anybody out there who's looking for a dynamic woman, this is the
Katie, she's right here, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. Are you going by Katie?
No, my colleague here, Katie.
Okay.
No, listen, all the fanfare aside, I'm looking for a partner.
Yeah.
Not in business, but in life. Somebody that like everything is challenging, whether we're talking about KC tenants or real estate or life or whatever. Somebody that when all that shit is all stirred up, you can say, all right, this was a fucked up date. What's up?
Yeah.
That's it.
Right. That's true.
Not make it more challenging or more, projects.
Okay.
I like projects. I feel like that's the problem. I'm a fixer,
Final question.
but I suck at it.
Final question. How do you think the Chiefs are going to do this year? Because, like, I counted them out last year, and I thought, like,
I'm so excited about this question.
Okay.
I think that the Chiefs are always going to do well. I would say that my biggest concern with the Chiefs right now is that the two biggest leaders, one is becoming a media mogul, and the other one...
Is that Kelsey?
That would be.
Okay.
And I also feel like on the bright side of that, his lady and partner is a genius.
Yeah.
Who has maybe some authority to pull some strings at times.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
So-
she might have a few strings to pull.
She might. So
Are they getting married?
don't know. Commerce,
Comment below if you think they're getting married. I think they're definitely getting married.
the commerce that it brings to Kansas City, the excitement and the new fandom for all of her fans is good, but it's also kind of annoying. And I feel like Mahomes needs to get a lot more attention
Yeah.
because he's the man.
Yeah.
My concern is that you can't always be the best all the time. I've been watching a couple other teams where I'm like, they're coming up because they needed it. And one I will say was the Saints. And secondly, I would say the
they've
Lions.
but
They've been shit for a while.
Yeah, but let me tell you something.
I know you're from New Orleans sometimes.
Well, yeah. So, and I'm a big Saints fan, to be honest
Yeah,
with you. But
I
they
know.
got Derek Carr, and he played for the Raiders, and he just can't get the job done.
Well, I'm
Like,
just
he
saying,
can't-
I
he
don't know
can't-
if you
he
watched the
can get you-
Cowboys.
He can
game
get
last
you.
weekend.
He can get you there. And Pat Mahomes.
He is just a renegade.
The problem is, if anybody has a chance, it's Josh Allen. Josh Allen has
Yes.
been robbed by 2 Super Bowls.
That's his problem.
I know it is his problem.
That's his problem.
He needs to switch. It goes to the NFC.
I would just say that if the Chiefs fans could give Pat Mahomes a little bit more attention than the love of Travis and love you, Travis. And
I'm more on Pat than I am on Travis, and I used to be opposite.
But it's a little bit. I feel like they're like best friends.
Yeah,
and
they are.
There's going to be something that's going to start getting a little bit annoying, right? Because Pat Mahomes is a leader. He is a visionary, and he knows what to do when he has to do it. And I think also, and this is just a theory, but I'm also very into betting. I think that there's some really lucrative points going on, which just by the tippy toe, 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
1 point by the tippy toe.
Yeah.
DraftKings I don't know. I just think that there's such good playing there that sometimes it's almost like there's a bigger picture that maybe we don't know.
Right. Maybe we don't. The fix is in.
I don't know.
We don't know.
We're just
asking questions here.
I'm just thinking
just loaded
out loud.
questions that we don't know the
I wish
answer.
that I could do DraftKings in Missouri. I wish I didn't have to drive to Kansas to place my bets.
DraftKings is a place to bet money on.
Yeah, but not in Missouri.
Is that like scratch cards?
My luck has really been running out in general, but real estate, not really. It's been very good.
Good.
So we'll go ahead and put in the comments all of our listings right now, so you and your, your fans can take a peek at them.
Cool.
Go Chiefs. Go Troy.
That's right.
Go Millionaire Mentorship.
Well, hey, listen. Let's talk about that. You've known me a long time. Would you recommend people invest in our program? Do you think I'm the real deal? Do you think I'm full of shit? I mean, besides all that.
I would say that your program is impactful, and I've been to some of your seminars, and the people that are there are serious and they're wanting to be there. So whether you're full of shit or not,
okay,
the difference is somebody that actually takes the time, the money, the energy to get there.
Yeah,
they're not full of shit.
Right.
And what you teach
so
them.
I might be, but they're not.
Yeah, there we go. I mean, you have the track record to show with your properties. I mean, you've been buying and developing properties nationwide forever. Your story is a good one. You're the underdog kind of guy, and I am too. I'm not a guy, but you know what I mean. Yeah. But I would say that anybody that's in your program is going to get value out of it, and you have like all this nice swag. Hello.
For sure.
And in addition to that, like if they put in the effort, you can't do anything past that because they could sit there and listen to you all day long, or me or anybody else. But the fact that they're there means that they're serious. So it is worth their time.
Yeah. And I think that just to kind of summarize, if you're serious about investing in real estate and you're serious about investing in Kansas City, number one, I would direct you to Andrea Wardell Hornsby the third. I don't know.
That's cool. I mean, it's a little long, but I think it would fit on a business card.
Yeah. So I would direct you to Andrea, and I would say, like, if you need help, we would gladly help you. We have a lot of students that are in the local area here. I moved my whole family out here. You saw that in real time. I told you I'm all in. And
I went to the housewarming party. I was the only adult going down this water slide repeatedly.
We did come in a little bit late and a little bit loose.
Well, I also did a episode of Cribs for you at your house.
That's true. I forgot about that.
I don't know if you've seen that yet, but it is quite entertaining.
Yeah, I have not seen that. You had the cameraman Joe.
Yeah, cameraman Joe is there, and your house is beautiful, and I love your family. He has 2 twins that are tenacious and amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. And don't forget to eat your chips.
Yeah. And why'd you get me these?
Because you're salty.
Awesome. All right.
See ya.
Peace. See you on the next one. Thank you so much for tuning into our podcast right now. I am so happy that you are here. You are in the right spot to be getting inspired by other people that have just achieved their goals so that you can achieve your goals. Do me a favor. Leave us a 5-star review. It really helps us grow. And give us comments and feedbacks. We read those. It helps us grow. The most important person in this podcast is the listener, right? And so if you give us your feedback, it will allow us to create a better podcast for you. And make sure you enjoy the show and leave us a 5-star review.